Vijay Mahajan is joining us right now from our Hyderabad studios. He's founder and CEO at Basics. It's a large microfinance institution. We also will have Chandrasekhar Ghosh, Chairman and Managing Director. Okay, I'm being told that we have Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh, Chairman and Managing Director with Bandhan. Again, very large microfinance institution on a phone line from Kolkata. Gentlemen, thanks very much, both of you, for coming on today. So for our viewers, I'd just like to tell them what's happened. The government in the budget, which was presented on Saturday, has proposed to set up what's being referred to as the MUDRA Bank, right? Micro Units Development and Refinance Agency. It'll have a corpus of about 20,000 crores to provide refinance. Now, this would also act as a regulator for microfinance institutions. That's basically the backdrop in which this is. That's the backdrop in which we're doing this discussion right now. Mr. Mahajan, I'd just like to come to you first, sir. What do you make of it? Are you positive about this bank, the MUDRA Bank, and what it can achieve?
Yes, I think it's a very positive step. It had been a long-standing demand as far back as 1990. Ila Bhatt, when she chaired the Shram Shakti Commission, she had made such a proposal. Then late Professor Arjun Singh Gupta, when he chaired the National Commission on the Unorganized Sector, they had again proposed a 10,000 crore bank like this. So it was highly overdue, and I welcome this step.
Mr. Ghosh, what is your first response, sir?
This is a very good step for the government, and thank you, government, to recognition the microcredit business model to reach to the last mile connectivity, and it can be help to the sector to reach more poor people to get the credit services from this fund.
Now, I want to clear a basic issue. I don't know if we've got clarity on this. Mr. Ghosh, would the MUDRA Bank come under the RBI or it won't? Do we have the clarity?
It has not yet clarified on that, but it will become to the next a few days. They will be clarified total on that. But I understand about it. It should be a separate one of the regulator authority or development regulation authority, because if you see that the microcredit till now was serving the people with these credit services under the two entity, under the profit entity and not for profit entity, and RBI say that the for profit entity they are controlling by their regulation on that, and not for profit entity, those are providing credit services to the same way, but they are not controlled by RBI on that. So this authority, I hope that they can be control both the authority on that, and the not for profit entity and for profit entity. So total microcredit industry can be controlled by authority, and also provide that the low interest rate the credit service to the microcredit institution, and they can be come to the reduce the lending rate to the poor people.
Mr. Mahajan, your thoughts, sir? Would this come under the ambit of the RBI or no?
Well, the RBI is the main banking regulator, so everything will have to be under the RBI. But to the extent that NABARD and the National Housing Board, National Housing Bank, they are fairly autonomous statutory bodies, but eventually they are under the RBI in a sense. So I think MUDRA would be having roughly the same status. It will be enacted under a new law, but I think the final accountability will be to the RBI, because after all, as a bank, it needs to be accountable to the banking regulator.
Right. The 20 or I think the total borrowing of the NBFC microfinance institutions is what annually? About 24,000 crores or so, right?
Right.
So
this
20,000.
Well, this year it will about 30,000 would be crossed this year, this 31st March. That's all from the banking system. So most of it and SIDBI.
Right. So the corpus of 20,000 crores, it's still pretty meaningful in that sense, right?
Well, it's meaningful if you compare it to what is currently being got, but there are 5.5 crore micro enterprises in India as per the economic census of 2011, and even if each of them needs a lakh of rupees, which is a fairly modest amount in terms of both fixed assets and working capital, talking of 5.5 lakh crores. So in that sense, 20,000 is just a small beginning. But nothing stops us from growing every year if we can show a good record.
Yeah, got that. Mr. Ghosh, what would you say to this, the corpus which has been set aside? And I'd like to start talking about the role of the Mudra Bank as well. What do you imagine will be the main role of the bank?
Main role of the bank to provide the funding support to the microcredit organization is a cheaper rate, and also it will be monitored to the channel of the microcredit organization. It is providing the poor segment rightly, and these are the two factors I feel that they can be controlled on that.
Right, right. But it also obviously would provide policy guidelines for microfinance institutions, right? I mean, it'll look at registration, regulation, accreditation, rating, all of that, right?
Yes, all of things.
Right.
There is one model already in the country. If you see that the Bangladesh is in, they have been formed as a PKSF, Polli Kormo Sahayak Foundation, and they have been generated the fund from government and World Bank as a cheaper rate, and they are providing the fund to the different microcredit organization to provide to the microcredit borrower. So they are also control the cost of lending on that. So that I hope that similarly it will be like on that should be formed in India.
No, I was asking you, do you think this new entity would, and the allocation, etc., which we know, and the functions, etc., which has been put out by the guide as part of the released by the government, it would really help in pushing the microfinance agenda. It'll really help increase access of finance to unbanked areas, bring down the cost of finance. Will it do all that, or it's just another entity?
No, it will be pushed the microcredit industry. If you see that the 30,000 crores now in the total industry of microfinance, and out of that in the 24,000 crores is a bank money, bank lending. So 20,000 crores has come from the government, and it has 100% growth can be possible by the microcredit industry to reach to this 2.8 crores people to the 5 crores people easily on that. So it can be help to the sector to reach more people.
Mr. Mahajan, same question to you. Will it really push all that?
Yes, one is of course the 20,000 crore starting corpus. Please remember that will increase year after year. The way the Rural Infrastructure Development Fund, when it was introduced in 1996, today it is so large. So, but the second reason is that there will be a single point focus for all policy and regulation related to the microfinance sector, and therefore, while the RBI has done a lot of work in this respect over the last 2.5 years, the fact is that the RBI has to look after the entire economy, and therefore this amount of strategic attention that had to be paid to the microfinance sector was limited. Now with this institution MUDRA, it would on the other hand be only doing the micro units, as they call it, refinance and development. So I expect a lot more attention to the ongoing issues of this sector, and therefore some positive growth.
In terms of fixing the maximum, the cap on interest rates, etc., how would it work? What is the situation right now for the industry, and what is your expectation?
Well, right now there is a margin cap. That means there is a maximum margin between the borrowing rate and the lending rate is 10%, and that basically then decides. So if an MFI is borrowing from a bank at say 14%, then it can maximum lend at 24%. So that's the predominant margin cap right now. I assume that MUDRA would probably push it further down, simply because they are not a retail lender, they are refinanciers, so their cost of funds should be around the same as say government bonds, so let us say 6 or 7%, and with a 1% or 2% margin for themselves, they should be able to lend to the industry at 8 to 9%, and in that case the expectation would be that the industry would also bring down its interest rates to that extent.
Yeah, but the margin broadly you'd say would remain in the 10% region, or that the margin itself could be brought down?
Well, the margin has been arrived at after a lot of assessment by the RBI as to what it costs, and these are small loans. A 20,000 rupee loan often requires 50 plus transactions because of the weekly repayment system. Even if it is replaced with a monthly repayment system, it requires at least 14 transactions, one for appraisal, one for disbursement, and then 12 for repayment once a month. So while some of that will be helped by automation through through the large number of bank accounts that have been opened in under the PMJDY Jan Dhan Yojana, and also the fact that there are virtually large number of Aadhaar cards now, the Aadhaar bank linkage is happening. But the fact is that those technology benefits will probably reduce cost by maybe another 2%. So I would imagine that the margin cap would at best be would either be retained or maybe slightly reduced. But it's the cost of funds to the MFI, which banks today are charging 14%, which I expect should come down significantly to maybe 7 or 8%.
Mr. Ghosh, what's your view on this, on the margin, which of course the cost of funding, but the margin I guess is what matters. How would you look at this? What do you think what the MUDRA Bank can do about this?
If you see that when banks are not pursuing that they are not fulfill their target at the priority sector lending, they are giving the money to the NABARD and CDB with the rate of 5%. So if a MUDRA bank get that as the same fund and they are charging in the 5% to the microcredit organization, so there is now they are borrowing from the bank is in 13 to 15% on that. So these 8% they can get that the benefit, and as the weighted average of the cost of fund will be come down, and they will be lending rate will be reduced on that. And second point is in margin cap. If you say that the margin cap is in those microcredit organization more than 100 crores, they have the margin cap is at 10%, and those who have the less than 100 crores, they have the 12% margin cap. And this type of institution, when get the fund from the MUDRA bank, and they will be scale up and their portfolio will become more than 100 crores. Of course, their operational cost will be reduced, and they will be also reduce their lending rate to on that. So lending rate also depend on cost of fund and also the operational cost. So when it will be scale good, so automatically they are little bit with the room to reduce the interest rate from their margin cap. So that because it's a separate one of the entity will be closely supervise and monitor and observe this industry, and they are also time to time understand about it as a amalgam committee, and they will be review on that in the margin cap issue if it is possible on that.
Right. Mr. Mahajan, I'd just like to ask you, what happens to the microfinance bill 2012? Which was stuck, right? Lots of delays. There were differences between the RBI and the government. You think that will go through now?
what the MF bill was to achieve would be now have to be done through the MUDRA bill. So I think many of its features would be brought into the MUDRA bill, but the MUDRA bill will also have to be would have to talk about a whole new institution being created. So in some ways, actually, it comes closer to the bill that was presented by us as an industry association in 2009, where we had proposed something called an MFDRA, Microfinance Development and Regulatory Agency. So only instead of F, it is U, and makes a nice way to read it. But a full institution has to be created, and that requires more than what was there in the 2012 microfinance bill.
Okay. All right. No, got that. Thanks very much, Mr. Mahajan and Mr. Ghosh, for coming on and talking to us. Appreciate your time.